Welcome to the video session of mahendraguru.com, wherein today we are having something new for you all, and that is learn internet in just 20 minutes. Learn everything about internet in just 20 minutes. The topic today that we have is the internet. Before beginning or before knowing what actually internet is, let us know what actually our network is. The very first slide that we have will focus on the topic network, on the term network. What is a network? A network is basically a communication or a connection between two or more points, two or more nodes. Now, these nodes can be two human, these nodes can be two digital systems, these nodes can be two or more digital systems, etc., etc., etc. We all are connected in a logical network. We have our parents, our relatives, our teachers, etc., etc., etc. in this logical network. Now, talking about the computer's network, or talking about the physical network is actually a communication between two or more nodes. Now, why is this communication, why is this connection established? This connection is established to share information as well as resources. The prime motive to establish a connection, the prime motive to establish a network is to share information and resources over a channel. Moving over to the main topic, that is internet. Let's see what we have in the internet section. Internet is a group of small and big networks worldwide. The very first statement that we have with the term internet is that it is a connection of small and big networks that are located worldwide. The small and big networks that are present worldwide compositely are known as internet, connected together via means of guided or unguided media. The two statements that we have for internet is group of small and big networks that are connected via guided or unguided media. A definition that you all can see in the book is network of networks. Internet is defined as network of networks. A network of networks that are located worldwide. Now, these networks can be a big or a small net. Moving over to the next slide, let's see what we have in the next slide. The next slide says something about the ARPANET. Now, what is ARPANET? We all are aware of the full form of ARPANET, and that is Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. What is ARPANET? Apart from the full form, what is ARPANET? Let's see. The internet evolved from a very popular network known well to the world, that was ARPANET, Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. Now, who established that network? Let's check it out. It was developed by US DoD, Department of Defense, during Second World War, and was completed in the year 1969. Now, 2 or 3 points we have here. Let's check it out. Those points. The internet evolved from the very popular network that was ARPANET, Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, a network that was developed by DoD, Department of Defense, US Department of Defense, and was completed in the year 1969. So that was all for the ARPANET. Let's move on to the next slide and let's check it out. What is ISP? ISP, Internet Service Provider. A very simple term. The name itself justifies the task performed by the ISP, Internet Service Provider, a company that provides you with the service of internet. Yes, a simple statement for ISP is a company that provides you with the services of internet. Let's check it out. What are the examples listed here? BSNL, we all know about BSNL, Vodafone, Airtel, etc. and etc. can be Uninor. We have the Uninor, Airtel, BSNL, Reliance, etc., etc., etc. These all companies are example of ISP. Let's check it, that where actually the ISP is located. We have a figure here which shows a device. Device can be a laptop, it can be a palm top, it can be a mobile that is connected to the ISP. The ISP can be Vodafone, BSNL, Airtel, etc., etc., etc. That in further is connected to the internet. Device connected to the ISP and ISP connected to the internet. Moving over to the next slide. How to connect to internet? We have various ways to connect to the internet. Let's check what are the ways listed out here. The very first way that we can see here is our dial-up connection. A very simple one, a very simple connection that can be used to connect to the internet. A very simple one, but now not in use, not that popular. One of the simplest way of connection which is established over telephone lines. The very first point that we get here is that this connection established over telephone lines making use of telephone numbers. The second point we get is making use of telephone numbers following the principle of PSTN. Now what's PSTN? Public switched telephone networks. The 3 points that we get in the dial-up connections are: the very first point, established over the telephone lines. The second point that we get is use of telephone numbers, and the third point that we get is it follows the principle of PSTN, public switched telephone network. Let's check the other way to connect to the internet. The next way that we have that can be used to connect to internet is DSL, known as, of the full form is digital subscriber line. Works very similar to the dial-up connection, that is, it makes use of traditional phone lines. The first point here is that the DSL makes use of traditional phone lines, the traditional telephone lines. Now, what is the difference between DSL and the dial-up connection? Now, let's check it out. In a DSL network, user can make call and use the internet service simultaneously concurrently. A point here to remember is, in the case of dial-up, we can use a single service at a time. That is, we can either make a call or we can use the services of internet. But in a DSL connection, we can simultaneously use both of the services, that is the internet service as well as we can even make a call in the DSL, digital subscriber line. Let's check what is the second point listed here. No need to reconnect each time you want to connect to the no need to reconnect each time you want to use internet. In case you want to use internet second time, third time or fourth time, there is no such need, there is no such requirement to reconnect each time you want to use the internet. Now that was a drawback of dial-up connection. Let's check the other way that we have. The other way that we have is the broadband connection. Very familiar, very common term. Now what is broadband? Let's check it. Broadband is a high bandwidth data transmission connection. Now this is the technical definition of broadband, that broadband is a high bandwidth data transmission connection. Now what is the familiar definition of broadband? The familiar definition of broadband is, in the language of internet, broadband is high speed internet connection. We all, or the named user, knows broadband with this definition, that broadband is a high-speed internet connection. The second point that we have is broadband provides you with 24/7 service faster than traditional dial-up connection. Broadband provides you 24/7, 365 days of service, that too with a faster speed compared to a traditional connection. 24/7, 365 days of service and a speed faster than the traditional connection. Let's check what we have in the next slide. The next slide here shows www. We all are familiar about www. What is www? World Wide Web. Now, we know the full form, but what actually is www? Let's learn it. Let's check it out. Tim Berners-Lee. Sir Tim Berners-Lee, he is named as the inventor of www. Is named as the inventor of World Wide Web. www is defined as the virtual space. A very key point, the very first key point that we get is a virtual space where information such as documents, images, text, etc. are located and are identified by the hyperlinks and URLs. Who developed www? Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Now, is it a physical or a virtual space? It is a virtual space. What kind of informations are listed there? We have the documents, we have the text, we have the images, we have the videos, we have the hyperlinks, etc., etc., etc. over the www. Now, moving over to the next slide, let's check what we have in the next slide. Search engine. What is a search engine? A very common term. A search engine is dash. Let's check. Search engine is defined as a set of softwares that is used to search information from the well-known www or World Wide Web. Information that are searched may include the text, the images, the audios, and the videos. We have a lot many information that can be searched by a search engine, but the primary information that is searched by a search engine are text, images, audio, video, etc. We have the Yahoo, we have the Google. These all are what? These all are example of search engines. Moving over to the next slide. Web browser. Now what is a web browser? We all, me and you, we all make use of web browser 100 times in a day. What is web browser? Is it a hardware? Is it a software? Is it a general concept? Now what is web browser? A very simple question and a very simple answer. A web browser is dash. A web browser is a client-side software. The very first key point that we get here is a client-side software application that is used to traverse data from the server to the client. Now, here we are talking about traversing. Traversing means sending and receiving or to and fro motion of data between the client as well as the server. Traverse data from server to the client system and vice versa, to the client system and from the client system to the server, both the directions. Web browser is a client-side software, we know, that is used to traverse data from server to the client, yes, and vice versa. The examples of web browser are listed here. Let's check the examples of web browser. The examples here are Internet Explorer, we know, IE. We have the Mozilla Firefox. We have the Google Chrome and the newest one, that is Microsoft Edge. The Microsoft Edge replaced Internet Explorer in the Windows operating system. Windows 10 has this web browser. Let's move over to the next slide. Now, web page. What is a web page? We are familiar about this term. Now, let's learn what a web page is. A web page is a web document generally written in a markup language. A web page is a web document that is written in a markup language. Often that markup language is HTML. You know the full form of HTML. Yes, you know the full form of HTML. A web page is accessible through a network or internet using a web browser. Any network or internet using a web browser can access this web page. Now, collection of web page is known as dash. A web page may consist of, this is a question and you can guess it in the next slide. A web page may consist of image, text, videos, etc, etc, etc. A web page is a document. What kind of documents? See, a web page is a web document written in a markup language, and most often the markup language is HTML. A web page may consist of image, text and videos, and a collection of web page is known as dash. Now what is the answer of this question? Yes, you all know the answer of this question. A collection of web page is known as a website. Now what is a website? Let's check it out. Let's learn here. A website is a collection of web pages that can be located over internet with help of an URL. A website is a collection of web pages. Now, this website can be located over network, over internet by using URL of that particular website. A website may consist of all the possible content that can be posted over a network. Now, a main point here is a website may consist all the contents that can be posted over a network. Websites are of two types. Now, what are the two types of websites that we have? The two types of websites that we have is, the first one we have the static one, and the second one we have is the dynamic one. The static and dynamic are two types of websites available. Let's move over to the next slide and let's check what we have in the next slide. The next slide says email. Now, what is email? Electronic or electrical mail? No, it's electronic mail. Good. Electronic mail developed by, now this is a question and we have the answer right here. Who developed email? Email was developed by Sir Ray Tomlinson. So Ray Tomlinson is developed by Ray Tomlinson. Email is a way of sending messages or mails in a digital format over a network. Now, what is electronic mail? Electronic mail is a process, is a way of sending what? Is a way of sending messages in a digitized form over a network. Who developed email? Sir Ray Tomlinson developed email. Now, what are the advantages of email? Let's check the advantages of email. The advantages of email are simple way to send message. This is the simplest way to send a message over a network. The second advantage that we have is takes negligible amount of time. Very less amount of time is required to send an email, and easy to draft email. It is a simple, to draft an email is very easy. One who knows the basics of internet or who knows the basics of email, he can draft an email with a click of button. Now, moving over to the next slide, let's see what we have in the next slide. The next slide says the components of email. What are the various components of email? Let's learn it. Inbox, compose and send. The name itself justifies what all tasks are performed by these components. Inbox contains the received message. Yes, we all know about the inbox. What is compose? Compose button or compose component opens the text editor where one can write emails. Compose opens the text editor box where one can write emails. Send contains the messages you have sent successfully to others. Once we send a message, the records of that particular sent messages are kept in the sent box or the sent component. Let's move on to the next slide and check out what all components are listed out there. We have the spam, also known as bulk, also known as junk section. What is that component for? Unwanted commercial messages or the messages that we don't want to see are listed out here. Spam, junk and bulk component. Drafts, messages you have created but not sent. If you have created a message and you have not sent it, it will be in the draft section of the email. Then after, the last one that we have is the trash. The received messages, those you have deleted. The messages that are deleted by you are kept in the trash. It is somewhat very similar to the recycle bin of an operating system or the Windows. Very similar to the recycle bin of the Windows. Now, we all know what Windows does. What recycle bin does. Moving on to the next slide, let's see what we have in the next slide. We have the components of Compose tab. Those were the components of email. Here we have the components of the Compose tab. To CC, BCC, subject, message area and signature line. Let's see what we have in the two. Here we write the receiver's address. The one who is going to receive the email, the address of that particular is written out in the to section. The second one we have the carbon copy. The third one, BCC, we have the blind carbon copy. Subject, here we write the subject, what for we are sending the email. The subject of that particular email, electronic mail message, is written in the subject section. We have the message area. Here we write the actual content of the email. The actual content of the email is written in the message area. Then after we have the signature line. It displays sender's details. The signature line is the final line that displays the sender's detail. If I am sending a mail to someone, that signature line will hold the details of mine. Okay. Now, what is the difference between carbon copy and blind carbon copy? First, let's see what is actually a carbon copy. Carbon copy is a copy of that mail, of that content that can be sent to a secondary addressee. What is a blind carbon copy? If we want to hide the carbon copy and we don't want that the main addressee and the carbon copy addressee may see who else have received that mail, we can keep that particular addressee in the blind carbon copy section. CC carbon copy, BCC blind carbon copy. So that was all for the topic internet. Do comment us on www.mahendraguru.com and please do subscribe your YouTube channel, that is www.youtube.com/c/Mahendra Guru videos. Your success is our success. Thank you.